Welcome to the deep dive. Let's face it, if you're learning English, well, one of the biggest hurdles can feel like actually speaking it effectively,
Mm,
especially when you don't have someone, readily available to practice with.
absolutely. That's a really common feeling, being stuck without a conversation partner.
It's a challenge so many of you navigate daily.
It is. But the exciting news, and this is what we want to dig into, is that you can make significant progress.
On your own.
Yes, right now on your own. So our goal in this deep dive is to give you some practical, immediately usable techniques.
Things you can start doing today.
Exactly. To really boost those speaking skills, nobody required.
And to get to these solutions, we've taken a close look at a range of resources focused specifically on this.
On how to practice English speaking effectively. Yeah.
We've kind of distilled it all down to what we think will be most impactful for you. Okay, so let's jump in.
Let's do it.
The first technique we're going to explore might seem a little counterintuitive at first, talking to yourself.
Right. It might sound a bit odd, maybe even feel odd doing it.
Uh-huh.
But consciously verbalizing your thoughts and actions in English, even when no one's around, is, well, it's surprisingly powerful.
How so?
It helps build fluency, solidifies your understanding. It's really about leveraging active recall,
Oh.
strengthening those connections between words and how they sound as you actively pull them out and use them.
So you're forcing yourself to think in English.
Pretty much, yeah. Flipping that switch consistently.
Right. Think about like everyday moments as you're making your morning coffee.
Uh-huh.
Say it out loud. I am pouring hot water into the mug, or I am adding milk.
These little narrations, yeah.
They force your brain to access English vocabulary, sentence structure, right there in the moment.
In real time. It might feel silly at first, I get that.
It does sound a bit odd initially, doesn't it? Are there common hesitations learners have about this?
Oh, definitely. That's a great point. Many learners feel self-conscious.
Like they're doing something strange?
Exactly. The key is to kind of reframe it. Think of it as a private practice session.
A mental workout.
A mental workout for your English, precisely. There's no judgment, no pressure.
Good point.
Start small. Maybe just describe 1 or 2 actions a day. Get comfortable,
And then build up.
and then expand. Yeah. You could also try pretending you're explaining something simple,
Like what?
like how to make your favorite sandwich, maybe.
Ah, okay.
It helps you organize thoughts in English and, crucially, spot where your vocabulary might be a bit thin.
I see. Okay, technique number 2. This takes something you're probably already doing reading and adds a vocal element.
Right, reading out loud.
We all read, but voicing it.
That's the key difference. Reading is fantastic for vocabulary, for seeing sentence structures. We know that.
Sure.
But when you actually voice the words, you're engaging your vocal cords, training those muscles.
The physical act of speaking.
Exactly. The muscles in your mouth, your face, to form English sounds. So it has comprehension and articulation.
Both at the same time. Definitely. But it's more than just, saying the words, right?
Good point. It's about the flow.
Yeah, pay attention to how the sentences flow naturally. Notice where the emphasis falls,
The rhythm.
the rhythm of the language, and where you'd naturally pause. Take a breath,
It might feel a bit forced at first,
for sure.
but with consistent practice, you'll start to develop a much better feel for that natural cadence of English.
Okay, building on that idea of vocalizing English.
Mm-hmm.
Our next technique takes active speaking, well, maybe a step further.
Absolutely. And an interesting aspect of reading aloud is how it builds speaking confidence.
How so?
Well, by practicing pronunciation and flow in a relaxed setting, just you and the text, you're building muscle memory
Yeah, without the pressure.
without the pressure of a real conversation.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah, that does. Okay, now let's dive into a technique called shadowing.
Shadowing, yes.
I've heard great things about this one, but I'm curious about the practicalities. How do learners actually, get started effectively?
Right. Shadowing is essentially about imitation, pure and simple.
Okay,
You listen to a native English speaker, could be from a podcast.
like this one.
Could be. Or a YouTube video, a movie scene, whatever.
And then?
And you immediately try to repeat exactly what they're saying right after them,
Immediately, like talking over them.
almost simultaneously or with a tiny delay.
Mm.
You're aiming to match their pronunciation, their intonation, even their speed.
As closely as possible.
As closely as you can, yes.
So it's almost like being a vocal parrot initially.
That's a good way to put it. The goal isn't necessarily full comprehension right away, though that will come.
Right.
The main focus, especially at the start, is getting your mouth to physically make the sounds.
And absorb the rhythm.
Absorb the natural rhythm and flow of the language, exactly.
Interesting.
And this simultaneous engagement of listening and speaking skills is incredibly effective.
Because you're not just passively hearing it.
No, you're actively trying to reproduce it. Choosing the right materials is pretty key here, though.
What should people look for?
Find content where the speaker's pace is manageable for you.
Not too fast.
Not too fast to start. And ideally, something you can easily pause and rewind.
So you can really focus.
Yeah, focus on specific sounds or tricky phrases.
Okay, that makes sense. Our next technique is something that, well, often gets overlooked, I think.
Which one's that?
Keeping a speaking journal. Or a voice journal.
Yes. The voice journal. That's quite underrated, isn't it?
I think so.
It basically involves regularly recording yourself speaking.
Just talking.
Just talking. Doesn't have to be formal. Talk about your day, your thoughts on something you're interested in.
Your goals for the week, maybe.
Exactly. Even just your goals. The act of speaking freely, even just to your phone or computer, is fantastic practice in itself.
But where this really becomes powerful, I think, is when you listen back.
Absolutely. That's the crucial step.
Maybe after a week or even a month.
Yeah, giving it some time.
It gives you a really tangible way to track your progress. You might be surprised, actually.
You often are. You hear how your fluency's improved. Maybe your vocabulary is broader.
But you're making fewer of those little grammatical errors.
Right. It's like getting an audio snapshot of your speaking skills over time.
A snapshot, yeah.
And it also really shines a light on those persistent mistakes.
The ones you don't even realize you're making.
Exactly. Maybe you always mispronounce a certain word, or you stumble over a specific grammar point when you speak.
And hearing it played back.
Hearing it played back lets you pinpoint those specific areas you need to work on. It really makes you think, you know. How often do we really stop and analyze our own spoken language patterns?
Not often enough, probably.
A voice journal gives you that chance for self-reflection. Really valuable.
Definitely sounds valuable.
See.
Okay, finally, let's explore how we can use all this incredible technology we have
Right at our fingertips.
to boost our solo English practice.
Yeah, we live in an amazing time for language learners, honestly. There's so many apps out there.
Specific apps for speaking.
Specific apps designed for speaking practice, yes. Some even use AI to give feedback on pronunciation.
Wow, okay.
And things like language exchange apps, they can connect you with other learners or native speakers.
But you don't always have to talk live, right?
No, that's the beauty. You can do asynchronous practice, like sending voice messages back and forth. Less pressure.
That's useful.
And even simple translation apps, don't overlook those. They can be surprisingly useful for quickly checking how a word should sound.
Good tip. Beyond specific apps, though, what about just our environment?
Environmental immersion, yes.
Yeah.
Think about small changes.
Yeah.
Switch the language settings on your phone to English.
Oh, yeah, I did that once. It felt weird at first.
It does, but it helps. Watch movies, TV shows in English, maybe with English subtitles to start.
You're just surrounded by it more.
Exactly. The more you immerse yourself in the language in daily life, the more your brain just naturally starts to absorb it.
That phone language thing, it felt a bit overwhelming initially, but it really did make a difference, just seeing English all day.
That's a great example. It's remarkable, actually, how these seemingly minor tweaks can create this continuous, almost background level of exposure. It really reinforces the focused practice you're doing with the other techniques.
It all works together.
It all connects.
Okay, so as we bring this deep dive to a close, the central message seems pretty clear. You absolutely can make significant progress in your spoken English, even if you are learning primarily on your own.
Absolutely. Consistent practice is the name of the game.
And being okay with making mistakes.
Crucial. That willingness to not be perfect, to learn from mistakes, that's key.
So make engaging with English a regular part of your daily routine.
Exactly. Even if it's just for short periods, maybe 15 minutes each day.
Yeah.
Consistency over quantity sometimes.
Right.
Remember that becoming proficient isn't like a sudden event. It's gradual.
It builds up.
It builds through the accumulation of frequent speaking practice in all these different forms we talked about.
Makes sense. And with that in mind, here's a final thought for you, the listener, to consider.
Okay.
What is one specific, maybe even small part of your daily routine that you could easily start narrating or describing to yourself in English starting today?
Good question.
Think about it and maybe give it a try. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.